Okay, so that's our task container set up. And now we have to style the individual input fields and the delete button. And what you'll remember actually is that inside of our pop-up, we actually don't have classes because we insert them through the JavaScript. So we'll have to actually head to our popup.js and update our render function. For our text input, let's do text.className is equal to task input. And then for our delete button, we do same thing. We'll do class name and we'll call it task delete. And we'll save that. And then inside of our CSS, we'll add these classes in. Input. We'll keep them empty for now, just so that they show up inside of our console. So we inspect. Do this task input class. Okay, awesome. And what we want to do now is, well, when we click on this, we'll see that we have that weird outline in border again. So we'll also set that to 0 or none. And with the border, and we'll give it a border radius. Let's try 4 pixels this time, since the input field's a little smaller. And we'll give it some margin, so it's not as close to all the elements around it. Looks pretty good so far. And we definitely need some padding inside of this input field since it's so close to the edges. And for the padding, we can do something like 10 pixels, which makes it really wide because it's even padding all around. But I think we actually want less padding on the sides or less padding on the top and more on the sides. So the order goes for padding is it goes top, right, bottom, left. So for the top, we'll do 5 pixels. For the right, we'll do 10 pixels. For the bottom, we'll do 5 pixels. And then for the left side, we'll do 10 pixels. And that looks a little better. So we'll do that for the padding. And for the width, let's make it fill up a little bit more space. Since we have the real estate, we'll do 250 pixels. That looks pretty good. And I will copy that over to our CSS and save this. And the very last thing to do in our pop-up will be the delete button. So task delete. So similar to our other input, we'll get rid of the outline, get rid of the border. So the height doesn't really match the size of this input field anymore. And if we actually look at the input field, when you hover over it, you can see it's 270 by 25. So 270 width, 25 height. So the height of our button should definitely be 25 pixels. And then the width, we'll also set it to 25 pixels, so it's nice and square. Then we'll give it a bit of a border radius as well. Do 4 pixels, so it matches the input field. And then we can change the color of it to match our other buttons. So color Indian red. And we'll do cursor pointer as well. And I think it could look a little bolder. We'll set the font weight this time. We can try something like 700, 800. I think 700 looks pretty nice. So we'll go with that. And then I'll copy, paste all the styling. I know I'm going through all the styling really quickly, but feel free to play around and do what you think looks best. You know, it's really easy to do it inside of this Chrome console. Just remember to copy it over to your CSS so that you don't lose it after you style it so nicely. If we start the timer, you can add a task and say hello world. All the functionality is still the same. You can reset the timer, no problems. So as you can see, our pop-up is looking pretty good. I think it's very usable. Not the prettiest thing in the world, but it'll do the job. The last thing we have to style is the options page. As you can see in the background, there's still quite a bit to do. So let's head over to our options page. Okay, so heading over, we can inspect this entire page. And for the body, we will begin by looking at the background color. So we'll do background color. That's Indian red. Okay, so that looks pretty good. But we'll want our text to be a different color. We'll probably want this to be white smoke. And we want to text align. We probably want it to be in the center. Font size could be a little bigger. We'll do 50 pixels. Okay. Give it a margin of 10 pixels. So it's not as close to everything. I think the font's a little thick, so do normal font weight. And that looks pretty good for a heading. And before I continue to style, actually head over to our options.css. So again, our body, do color, background color, be in red. Our H1, we'll paste what we just did. We can save that, refresh the page, and everything looks the same. Okay, so we're getting pretty close now. We'll want to change the styling of this. So what I'm imagining is, rather than having all this on the same line, we would have some sort of title, and then below that, the input related to the title. So I would have this below this default time label. And then at the very bottom, we'll have the Save Options button. That way, if we have multiple options, the button relates to everything, rather than just this one input field. So to do that, I think what I'm going to do is change this to be an H2, so that we can style it directly. And if I inspect this, I'll have to refresh our page so we can see the H2. I'll do a font weight to normal, and also change the color to match all of our other text. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And for our time option, what we'll want to do is remove the outline, as we've done before, remove the border, and we'll make it a bit bigger. Let's do something like 300 pixels. Okay. And we'll change the border radius to 4 pixels and give it some padding so it's a bit bigger, like 10 pixels. That looks alright. So we'll head over to our CSS. And this one is time option CID. Copy that over. And then going back to H2, we have font weight normal and color white smoke. So H2, copy that over. We'll save. Then we'll refresh the page to make sure our styling is set up. Okay, so we're in the home stretch now. If we close this, it actually looks a little better. The last thing is this button. Inside of this button, what we'll do is display block, so it's on its own line. And then we'll give it more of a margin on the top side, say 40 pixels, so that it moves farther away. The border to none. The outline is none. Border radius, do 4 pixels. And then, of course, we want to make it a little bigger, so we'll do padding 10 pixels. We'll change the color of the text to be Indian red. We'll set the font weight to be bold. And then we'll set the cursor to pointer. So I just did a bunch of stuff there, but you can see how the button is a little bigger. You know, when we hover over it, it has that pointer cursor, and it still does its job when you click on it. So I'll copy that over to our save button class. And save. When we refresh the page, we'll test this. We'll set this to 50. We'll hit save. And this gets set to 50. You can start the timer. And things are looking good. So that's it. We've completed our very first Chrome extension. And this is definitely not the most professionally designed Chrome extension. But if you're building this timer for yourself, or if you're just putting it out there in the Chrome store for someone who needs something that works but isn't too concerned about how nice it looks, then this is definitely good enough for that. Hope you enjoyed going through this project. I know there was a ton of tedious parts to this. You know, the styling, having to directly manipulate the DOM. And, you know, part of that is because it's important to understand the basic building blocks of Chrome extensions, you know, the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But I promise when we get to the React stuff, a lot of this will be a lot simpler, require a lot less tedious work. So look forward to those parts.